Bro, I have no idea why the Elden Beast just only did melee basically at the end there, but I don't give a fuck, bro, to be honest with you. Okay, someone answer me a question, because I don't really know what the rest of this entails here. Oh yeah, let me turn TTS back on. Yeah, I had my audio coming through my soundbar. I had TTS off, all the redeems off. I had my headset off, and I just needed to play the game. I didn't want to be looking at chat, because it is distracting. Like, a chat will pop up, and like my innate reaction is to look over and read it. You know what I'm saying? So like anytime anything popped up, I would always look over. So that was super distracting. So I had to basically like close Streamlabs. And then like also too, like sometimes Streamlabs will like let me know that ads are about to run. Appreciate it, guys. So yeah, just all that shit was just super distracting, dude. Like hella distracting. And our weapon here like was resistant, so I had to make sure that everything I did counted. We just had to get like a good string of events there. Now, I don't know if 16's here or not, but I guess he was here. Haha. But I don't know if he's still here or not. Because I needed some questions answered. Is Brother Media here? I need Brother Media here. I need 16. Okay.
G, it's done now to suck on Rhea Ripley's toes V-Jolt C-Shock.
Oh my god, bro. I turn on TTS and it's the first thing that comes through, bro. I don't even think Rhea Ripley has good feet, bro. I think you gotta hold on that one. To be honest with you. I think her feet are pretty gross. I could be wrong, though. But she's a big woman, bro. She's probably got some big, nasty feet. I'm not gonna lie. She got some, like...
Blumkin schnoz.
She got, like, some Abby from Last of Us feet, bro. Alright, so quick question. So, what puts me in New Game Plus and what doesn't? Like, if I just don't interact with this shit, does it put me in New Game Plus? If I interact with it, like, what's the...
Big old soil grippers.
Bro, I'm sure you could, like, find her feet, bro. Just, like, go look up her feet or whatever.
God, now I want to puke.
I found that out because I looked up Jill Valentine feet, and that shit was everywhere, bro. So you could probably find a picture. I'm almost certain, dude.
I'm pretty sure you picked New Game Plus from a Grace or some shit.
A Grace? Okay. Let me just double check with Google. I want to make sure we have, like, definitive answers here, because if I accidentally go into New Game Plus, bro, I'll be so sad. You must first defeat the final boss and choose an ending. After the credits roll, you'll be prompted to begin Journey 2. If you choose not to start immediately, you can access it later. Okay. Just want to make sure. Yeah, I was a little bit nervous because I was trying to beat this shit.
Concert Redon is waiting for you.
Before SummerSlam. Yeah, that's going to be a real mic muter. That's going to be another, like, I ain't saying shit. I might actually play music like Spy did, and I'll just, like, run it through my headphones, so that way, like, I don't have to hear it. And that way, like, you guys still at least, like, have something. Alright, I think we need to increase our endurance. Because... then any other levels past this, we're going to go damage for a while. It's going to annoy me, even though there's no runes. Alright. Mend the Elden Ring. Okay. Sure. Yeah, that was the final boss. I just beat the game. There's still stuff to do, but in terms of like actually just rolling credits, yeah, this is it right here. Yeah, unfortunately I can't turn redeems back on because I didn't start Mix It Up before I started stream, so that's just dead. Some of the redeems I could have probably kept on, like the silent ones. Like, I think there's like a Chad one that's like silent. That would have been fine, but it was easier to just turn them all off.
A story of how a tarnished became Elden Lord in our home across the fog.
Appreciate the GGs, Joe.
Between.
Yeah, we still got a lot more to do, but not for a while. I'm gonna play something else before we do this DLC. I don't even own the DLC yet.
An age of fracture.
Well, we did everything we need to do to get into the DLC, so when the DLC comes up, I'm ready to go. We already beat Moog and Radon. Ready to go with that. Huge. And I just want to let it be known, even though we used the Bloodhound Fang for like the latter half of the game, I would say all the way up until Godskin Duo, I used the longsword. Plus 24, well, it wasn't plus 24 during Godskin. If it was, it probably would have actually beat them, but yeah, I used a longsword all the way up until them, and then I just wasn't doing enough damage. Switch to Bloodhound Fang.
Break up the slop with some Tomb Raider Chronicles.
God. Hell nah. Creator of Game of Thrones was part... Yeah, so he wrote the story. George R.R. Martin, he wrote the whole story for this game. He wrote it, like, years before the game was ever done. So, like, he never really saw, like, the fruits of his labor until, like, years later. But, yeah. So, yeah, I'm sure if you ever want to, like, look up lore or read more lore about this game, it's probably got, like, a pretty good story. With the exception of, like, Radon, I think he's fucking stupid as fuck, but, you know. But anyway, yeah, I beat most of this game with a longsword, and then the latter half I had to use the Bloodhound Fang. Didn't use a single summon one time, used 0 spells, only used me and my two-handed sword, and that was it. I didn't, and it's like any attempts that mattered, I didn't use, like, any extra shit. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, every attempt where I killed something, I ran out of like grease or like whatever, and the only thing I really used was like the physic flask, which was very helpful a lot of the time, especially against Moog.
As God intended.
Like Moog, it was like, it was necessary. Spy was talking about like healing through it and shit. I'm like, nah, bro, you got this little flask piece, bro. Why the fuck would I do that? Literally blocks all of his shit. Like, nah, I'm good. The only thing we didn't do was Melania. It's literally the only thing we didn't do. Now, I'm not saying I won't do it. It's just we haven't done it yet. So possibly Melania's on the table at some point, and then that DLC. But I can officially say I've beaten 3 Souls games now. So solo with a melee weapon. And you know, I'm not going to talk shit on anyone who beat this game with like summons or anything like that. This is just how I decided to play. You know, I know Brother Media was talking about using summons and shit, but I'm not going to shit on you, bro. You know what I mean? I will shit on Mikhail, though, for using a shield and having his friend come in. Because fuck that guy. But, you know, besides him, whatever you want to do. This game's ass. I fucking hated this whole game, dude. I'm not even gonna lie. I had such a miserable time playing this shit. I would not recommend this to anyone. I couldn't. Like, it'll definitely push you and, like, challenge you for sure. But, yeah. This shit wasn't very fun. There's like fun challenge, and then there's just like an annoying challenge, you know? This game definitely had annoying challenge for sure. Alright, let me pull up, actually no, we gotta be very vigilant here. I'm gonna skip this. Begin Journey 2. If you now start over, you can choose to begin. Begin Journey 2? No. Okay, so I have to make sure we're picking the right thing there. Okay. So the reason we hit no is so we can do the DLC, not in New Game Plus, and so I don't have to replay the game, obviously, to get to New Game Plus. Alright, let me find a place to stand. Oh, that bitch just, like, disappears. Interesting. Yeah, we actually beat a lot of bosses in this that I never thought I was gonna, like, even bother facing, surprisingly enough. Like, I mean, if it wasn't for the DLC, I wasn't even going to face Radon, to be honest with you. But I was like, alright, well, we got to fight, bro. And then same with Moog, too. I had no intentions of fighting him, but, you know, he was necessary. We still got the Dung Eater. We can fight him as well. But he's not as important as Melania. Alright, let's find a place to stand. I'll do the review. Guess we still got like over an hour until SummerSlam actually starts, because they've been doing this like stupid 3-hour kickoff show shit. Bro said as God intended. What was in this room down here? Oh, it's a door. Yeah, a thought ran through my mind. I was like, you know, what if I upgrade like another, you know, single-handed melee weapon? Like, all, you know, as far as it can go. And, you know, that way, like, I'm hitting with like 2 weapons, so I'll be doing more damage. And I'm like, nah. For one, I didn't feel like grinded runes to do that. And 2, I was just like, hey, I've done the whole game with like 1 weapon, so I'll just beat it here. All right, let's stand next to our boy. I think I know where I want to stand. This guy has been pretty... I mean, he's a slave, essentially. You know, he's not really here because he wants to be. But you know what? He's been cool. So, actually, hold on. Let me get him in frame so chat's not blocking him. There we go. All right. Let me Alt Tab. Get the average number calculator up. Now, you guys probably think I'm going to shit all over this game. And there's definitely going to be parts where I am going to shit on it. I'll tell you that right now. But it's not all bad. But yeah, I don't know what game I'm playing next. I gotta think on that. I'll know by tomorrow. Oh, God. Alright. Elden Ring base game review. I am going to review the DLC as well. I'm going to review that separately whenever that comes. So I'm just letting you know now, that's going to get a separate review because it seems large enough to review the game. So, yeah. Alright, Elden Ring base game review. Got 4 main categories: graphics, atmosphere, sound design, story, and gameplay. Graphics and atmosphere. You know, I feel like with all these Souls games, they all do like a really, really good job at world design. You know, just visuals overall, all the detail, the animations, the enemy designs. You know, we'll get more into enemy designs later, but you know, just the visuals of everything is always very, very good. Oh shit, Vigil with the gift sub. I appreciate you, my guy. It's a Sickman31, whoever the fuck that is. Oh no, 314. Appreciate the tier 1 gift sub, Vigil. Let's fucking go. 29 gift subs in total. That's huge. But yeah, the visuals are always just superb in these games. I can't really knock them at all. I guess the only thing I could really mention, and I don't know exactly where this would slot in terms of, like, the categories here. I'm guessing just, like... Yeah, I'm guessing, like, in graphics, yeah. So, actually, it would go in both graphics and gameplay, so we'll kind of split it up here. So, in terms of actual character models, you know, there's a lot of enemies that are just reused in this game, whether they're reused as, like, a boss in, like, a random cave, whether they're... I mean, that's, like, the main thing, honestly. You know, like, you'll... Like, for example, like, when you're in the tutorial area, like, the very first enemy you come across is a soldier of Godric, and he's a boss, right? But he's also just a regular enemy just out in the world. Or, the very first boss that you come across to that you're supposed to die to, but, you know, you can't technically kill him. He's another enemy that's just placed in the world later on, several times, actually. You know, this goes for so many enemies in the game. You know, certain ones that kind of make sense to, you know, kind of copy and paste, but, you know, Godskin Duo, that's another one. Yeah, bro, I need to see Vigil versus Soldier of Godric, bro. I swear to God. I need that. I need that so bad. Bro's gonna do one thrust and it's gonna be over. Anyway. Yeah, there's just like a lot of repeat enemies in this game. And I would see that as like a negative. Oh yeah, I was talking about Godskin Duo. Like, you'll see Godskin Duo multiple times. Like, you'll see them once, like, by themselves. You know, like, each of them, you know, in their own separate areas. You'll also see, like, a ghost version of either of them. On top of the, you know, the mandatory boss that you have to fight of them. So it's like... It's just, I don't know. It's just so... Like, I feel like with how much creativity that this team really has... They honestly... They could have done, like, a lot more, I feel, in terms of, like, making more enemy designs. They could have not copied and pasted as much. And that was like really disappointing, to see across the board, I would say. But otherwise, all the visuals in this game are pretty top-notch. Can't really complain about too much besides what I already complained about. Atmospherically, I mean, the world definitely has like an atmosphere to it. But I think the problem I have is, and again, it's just with that, like every Souls game, it's really hard to like get immersed in this shit because everything wants to kill you constantly. So I mean, you're always like on the defense. So it's really hard to be like sucked into a world where it's just like constant threats around every corner, It's not like, something like Silent Hill or something where, there's like downtime where you get to like enjoy the scenery or like solve a puzzle or something, This is just like constant shit that wants to murder you all the time. And it's very hard to get immersed in something like that. But anyway, graphics and atmosphere, I'll give it, just because of like the repeat enemies across the board. I'm going to give it like a 8.5. Sound design. I mean, I'm just going to give it a 10, bro. Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, always have just beautiful music, bro. Just beautiful soundtracks, greatly orchestrated. Even down to just like all the little sound design when you're fighting bosses, like the sound cues and stuff, like when they're going to do certain attacks. Even down to just like retrieving your runes, like healing, like everything is just so well made in terms of sound. I think like the only small critique, and I'm not going to dock any points for this, is just like, I feel like in all the Souls games, I feel like, voice work could be a little bit better on certain characters, but I think it's, the best it's ever been in this game right here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I gotta say about sound design. Sound design's great. Don't really have any complaints. Alright, story. So this story was written by George R.R. Martin, as far as I'm aware. Basically, you are the Tarnished, and your basically whole goal here is to become the Elden Lord, and restore the Elden Ring or whatever. That's basically like the very basic premise. There's a lot more little intricate things in there, but that's the basic premise there. I'm not going to get into all the lore. I'm just going to kind of give like a blanket score, I think, on the story as a whole, and then we'll move on to gameplay. But just like all previous Souls games, there is a lot of lore here to learn about, whether it's through side quests or environmental storytelling or cutscenes or whatever the case might be. It's all there if you want to go seek it out and digest it. Of course, if Wikipedia is your friend, you can always go read up on the wiki for this game if you need any help or information on what things mean. So that's always helpful. And I don't know how the community is in terms of explaining lore. I know Brother Media here likes to talk about lore. So, I'm sure there's people in different, streamers communities that, wouldn't mind explaining things to you, Now, I will say there are a couple characters in this game that I find kind of cringy. Radon being one of them. I've been very open about not liking Radon. I think he's like a very cringe lord-esque character. Bro's just like, this oversized dude with gravity magic, and he loves his horse, so he's, doesn't have feet, and like he just, it's just, I think it's just so stupid, dude. And then like during the fight, he comes crashing down like a meteor. It's just like, dude, you're an actual nerd. I fucking hate you so much. I hate Radon. I think he's so dumb. But yeah, besides Radon, I mean, I think the rest of the story was pretty interesting. I liked learning different things about different characters and why they do what they do. So overall, I'm going to give the story a... I'll give it like a 9. Alright. Gameplay. Oh boy. So I would argue, and I would say that this is probably the hardest, in my opinion, I think this is like the hardest to grasp Souls game. I mean, I haven't played Sekiro, so I don't know for sure if I want to say that, but from what, you know, like the ones that I did play, I think this is the hardest of the 3 that I've played so far. And it's literally just because of, like, they add these, like, other mechanics in here, and then the attacks that the enemies do, you know, bosses, obviously, are a lot more varied. So, in this game, like, you'll have to, like, jump over certain attacks. There's parrying, which, you know, I believe was in the other ones as well, so that's not any different. But the jump is, like, the main new thing here. You have to learn how to jump in several fights. And, you know, it is a very handy tool, but it's just like an added thing that you have to, like, you know, keep in mind. So you're rolling, you're jumping. Something they don't really ever explain, but you kind of have to pick up for certain fights, is you kind of have to, like, unlock from certain bosses and kind of strafe around them. Like, when I fought Godfrey, the second time you fight, you know, Godfrey, the actual Godfrey, in his second phase, I found it easier for me when I unlocked from bro, and then I just kind of strafed around him. I thought that was a lot easier, and that's how I actually ended up killing him. But yeah, like, there's just little things like that. You know, wind-ups have always been a thing, too, in these games, but I feel like it's even more egregious in this game. Like, enemies just have these insane, inane wind-ups where they just wind up for 30 years and then decide to hit you. I'm also fairly certain there's, like, variable wind-ups, too. Like, there was several attacks where I would, like, know the timing, or at least I thought I did, and then I would dodge with that timing in mind, and then he would just delay it, like, a little bit longer, or sometimes he would hit, like, even quicker. So, you know, that was kind of annoying to have to deal with, like, throughout the entire game. A lot of the bosses in this game are, like, super aggressive constantly. You know, almost to the point of, like, overbearing amounts of punishment. Like, I understand, like, you know, getting punished for doing certain things, and that's fine. But it's, like, punishment to the point of, like, I couldn't even heal sometimes. And you would just have to, like, get down the pattern of attacking, or I'm sorry, not attacking, dodging, like, 500 million times until you're able to hit once. And it just became, like, really draining after a while. And I was just, like, not having a good time playing this game after a while. But, I mean, you know, fuck it, we got through it, whatever. But yeah, also, too, like, the way that the enemies, like, all enemies, not just bosses, every enemy in the game, the way that these enemies, like, string together shit in this game is, like, crazy. Like, there's a lot of guessing work going on in this game. Like, they will combo shit that you never even thought of. And it almost feels like, at times, like, they combo shit literally just to kill you. Like, they just want to make sure that you die. And I get that, you know, that's the whole point of the enemy, right, is to kill you. But it just felt like the game had no intentions of ever giving you an opening, ever. You know, like, there would be so many times where I would go to heal during, like, an opening for, like, a boss. You know, like, after he does, like, some long-ass string, and then he goes right into like a quickened version of some move, and you know, like just to hit me out of it. It's like, come on, dude. Like, but yeah, pretty challenging game. Would not recommend this as like a first time if you're like new to Souls games. And I know this was a lot of people's first, which is really weird because like I went back and I played, you know, Bloodborne, and then I played Dark Souls 3, including, you know, like all the DLC before this, and I thought that was a lot easier than this game. Yeah, I don't know. There's just like added variability in this shit, and you know, kind of like 16 said, it keeps things fresh for, you know, those returning. But I think, you know, for someone like me who doesn't really play a lot of these games, yeah, it was kind of a pain in the ass, I'm not gonna lie, to kind of get through some of this shit. What else? Oh yeah, so in terms of like scaling, this is something else I want to talk about. In every Dark Souls game before this, as far as I'm aware, you can just kind of go from boss to boss, and, you know, as long as you, like, clear the enemies out of each area once, and, like, obviously, like, you don't die and, like, lose your runes or whatever, you can pretty much just do that for the entire game with little to no grinding at all, and beat the whole game. Like, you can just go right into a boss, you know, and pretty much be fine as long as you're like adequately leveling as you're going, and you're leveling up your equipment as well. You could pretty much just go through the whole game with ease. In this game, however, they try to force it very early on with Margit specifically, where they basically make you go out and grind. Like, you can obviously probably beat Margit very early on, without doing much grinding, but I mean, someone who's like not used to these games, yeah, like you're gonna be out there grinding your little butt off. Like, you're gonna be going fighting, you know, Tree Sentinel and whatever other bosses are out there to get runes, to level up, to beat Margit, because he is a big skill gap, I will say. Like, for like, you know, a very first boss, he is definitely challenging. I wouldn't even really consider him like the technical first boss. I would say the first real boss is Tree Sentinel, personally, but I ended up going back to Bro afterwards. I didn't even like, because I didn't understand like jumping at the time, so I kept trying to like roll through everything, and I was just getting mollywopped. And then, you know, even when I did beat him, I still didn't understand jumping. I didn't actually learn jumping until we beat Godric. Like, Godric taught me jumping in the game. He taught me all about that shit, and you know, that came in handy for Godfrey, but I can't think of like too many other bosses where I really used jumping. Like, even against Radagon, I didn't even jump that much. But anyway, yeah, the game basically forces you to grind. Now, of course, you could probably look up on like Wiki or whatever, or Google or Reddit, whatever, like a suggested path that you go, and you know, they have charts and shit that show you like, you know, where you should be going based off like your level and stuff. But something to note about this game is your level, from what I understand, doesn't even really matter, because there's people who have done like level 1 runs, and the only thing that matters is your weapon. Like, as long as your weapon is properly leveled, like, you can beat the game, from what I understand, which is really interesting. Obviously, it's going to be a lot harder that way, and it's not, you know, recommended that you do that unless you're, you know, very skilled at what you're doing. But, yes, for, like, a normal player, though, you're going to be grinding. You're going to be forced to grind. There's really no way out of it. And I didn't like that. You know, I thought Dark Souls 3, for example, did things very well. I thought the scaling in that game was really good. I never had an issue with, like, really any boss. I mean, yeah, I got stuck on a couple bosses, but, like, not really for too long. You know, I never felt like I needed to go grind, you know, to increase my power so I could kill a boss or whatever. That was never really the case. So, in this game, though, it's like, you can even get too powerful for certain bosses. Like, we went back and we fought Radon, and I, like, wipe the floor with him, you know, because I was like level 80 something by the time I went to go fight him, because I was like, oh, I might as well go do Radahn, because I gotta kill him for the DLC. And then, like, Radahn is like Moog, in terms of where you need to be power-wise, is so high above Radahn, it's actually ridiculous. Like, I don't know why they would choose those two, specifically, to get in, like, into the DLC, but anyway, yeah, so the power scaling, completely all over the place. I still don't even really know, like, the order of operations here that you're supposed to, you know, supposedly take, but yeah, it's just all over the place. At the end of the day, it's an open world game, bro. Do whatever you need to do to get through it. That's my opinion. You know, obviously, you know, we could have this talk all day. I think, you know, going through the game like I did, you know, melee only, no summons, no spells. I think that's, you know, a little bit more of like a skillful way of doing it, but I don't think it's like the end all be all though. Like, I think if you can, like, even if you do like some of this shit with like a mimic tier, I think that's fine. Just because of like how egregious the game can be. And you saw, dude, like, I died a lot. I died a lot on that final boss. And that was for like a number of reasons, but yeah, the power scaling kind of sucks in this game. Or not power scaling, but like the scaling in general kind of sucks. Oh yeah, the repeat bosses, I already brought it up in graphics, but yeah, the repeat bosses are fucking ass, dude. Like, you'll just go through like a random cave and, dude, there's probably like 30, oh no, I'm over exaggerating, there's probably like at least 10, I would imagine, like, of those like cat statues that you fight. You know, like, they'll take enemies that you see in, like, the open world and just put them in, like, a boss arena. It's just so fucking stupid, dude. It's, like, it's all just, like, filler content. That's all it, like, it really is. You know, like, all that shit is just, like, filler content, but it's, like, again, like, you know, Godskin Duo. They'll fucking take Godskin Duo, which you find in the open world as optional bosses, and then they made them, like, a mandatory boss, and then they didn't even balance them, and, you know, you have to, like, you don't have to, but, you know, you can use things like sleeping pots, you know, to make it easier for you. But it's like, I don't know. All the repeat bosses just really killed it in a lot of ways for me. It just made me not even want to do side content, honestly. I'm fucking pressing the button, he won't fucking move. Yeah, that shit was funny last night. But anyway, yeah, the actual side content, speaking of, like, the side content in this shit, it kind of sucks. Like, there's all these, like, runes, right? Like, these, like, ruins. Not runes. Ruins that are everywhere across the map. And they're all just, like, slightly different. And for every one of them, there's a staircase that goes down. So, like, you'll go down into a staircase, and sometimes it'll be a boss, or sometimes it'll just be a chest. And the boss is almost always just some garbage copy and paste boss. Like, almost always. And then you open the chest, and, you know, like, the loot is kind of hit or miss. But it's like, that, I don't know. I thought all those were just, like, pretty lame. Pretty shit. You know, I lost interest in doing them after a while. I think, like, the actual, like, forts and, like, shit like that, I think those were, you know, probably the most well-done open-world content. The one thing I really didn't get into in this playthrough, I know there's, like, there's those dungeons where, you know, they have, like, the traps everywhere and, like, the big rolling wheels. I didn't do a single one of those in this playthrough at all. So I don't know, like, what I missed out on from not doing those, but I know there is bosses in those as well. We just didn't do any, because I don't give a fuck. Weapon selection's good. You know, you can kind of play however you want. Like, if you want to treat this like an RPG and do magic or whatever. you could do that. You know, it's all available to you. You can. That's the cool thing about this game is you can literally play however you want, and I implore people to play however you want. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't play a certain way or whatever. Like however you want to beat this game, that's fine. If you want to use summons and spells at the same time, or cheese bosses, I don't really care. Like it's an open world game. It's meant to be. It's meant to have options. They're meant to be used for a reason. Like, they're in the game for a reason. It is what it is. Obviously, though, if I see you go in, with, like, a melee-only build, you beat the whole shit, like, yeah, I'm going to have a lot more respect for you skill-wise, I think. But, I mean, fuck it, dude. Like, if you want to sit in a corner with, like, a bow or something, I don't care, dude. Like, because some of that shit will actually make some bosses harder, Like, you're not going to have an easier time with certain builds, I feel like melee is, like, pretty versatile. Like, I was able to beat the whole game with, like, barely any issues. Except, with the longsword, like I said, against Godskin Duo, just because there was, like, 2 bosses. I should have actually tried that boss with a sleeping pot and then the longsword. I think I actually could have did it then, but... Anyway. That's not relevant. Overall, the last thing I want to say, actually, before we wrap up the gameplay here, I didn't have fun playing this game. I had a lot of fun playing Bloodborne. I had a lot of fun playing Dark Souls 3. Didn't have so much fun playing the DLC of DS3. I thought that shit was ass. I thought the actual bosses were good, but the actual, like, moment-to-moment gameplay of the, like, environments that you go through, I thought all that shit was an asshole. Yeah, I think they need to never do another open-world game ever again. I think it's... Ultimately, I think it's slop. I think it's not fun. I wasn't satisfied with beating a single boss in this game. I wasn't like, God damn, bro, we did it. Like, I wasn't, like, super hyped about any of this shit. Now, that could be, too, because I'm, like, fatigued on Souls games. This is, like, my second Souls game in a row, and then, including that fucking heinous DLC with Slave Knight Gale and all that shit. That could be it, too. But... all in all, though, I'm just saying how I felt about it. I just didn't really have fun. I think the game is more... I feel like the game is more aggravating than it is, like, a good time. Like, I feel like you're more prone to get annoyed than you are to, like... be like, damn, okay, I know what I gotta do now. And, like, you figure it out. You're like, okay, yeah, we got him, Like, you're never really gonna have that thought, I don't think, in your head. I mean, some people might, but I didn't. Yeah, overall here, I think Elden Ring is a beautifully crafted game in terms of visuals and everything I already said before in the graphics department. But I think where it falls short is it has kind of sloppy open world design in terms of, like, scaling and difficulty. I feel like, the difficulty just kind of skyrockets because they really wanted to force you to explore and level up. Yeah, I think a lot of the bosses just aren't very satisfying to fight. I think, a lot of the bosses look very cool, and that could kind of go towards the graphics part of things, but, like, I thought Malekith looked cool. I even thought Moog looked cool. Radon looks fucking stupid. Radagon looked alright. Elden Beast looked dumb. Trying to think of, like, any other bosses I thought were really cool. Morgott looks stupid. Margit looks stupid. Bro had, like, big-ass boils and shit on his face, and... I don't even know, bro. He kind of looked like this dude right here. Just like big ass nasty shit on his face. I don't know, dude. Yeah. So as like a personal thing, I think Elden Ring sucks. But as an objective look at this game and not being super harsh on it based off of my personal feelings, I said what I said about the game. Therefore, I give gameplay mm, 7.8. I was torn between 7.5 and an 8. So I'll give it a 7.8. Final score an 8.8, which is still, you know, pretty good score, all things considered. But it's definitely not hitting that 9 for me, I'll tell you that. People might say that Elden Ring's one of those, like, you gotta play it games. I don't think so. There's way better Souls games. Go play Dark Souls 3, go play Bloodborne, go play Dark Souls 1. Go fire up something good. This isn't it, pal.